Huh, an episode about taking care of a bunch of toddlers. It's just too bad this episode didn't air on May 5th in Japan, otherwise it would have lined up perfectly with Kodomo no Hi or Children's Day. Hmm? But yeah, this week, the Precure agreed to volunteer at a preschool. They were almost late for this little engagement as Hana decided to sleep in, so Ruru had to give her a wake-up call. Jeez, Ruru's hiding some guns underneath that shoulderless dress.
Oh, my bad. Okay, bad idea.
The night before, Saya had prepped for this day by reading a textbook about childcare, one that she brought with her to the school just in case, and Ruru, after learning how one of her enemies had expanded her knowledge, decided to do likewise. Yeah, that's pretty much the face I always make when I have to deal with my younger cousins. The girls were assigned to the early education parts of the school, or to be more exact, I think they were assigned to the caterpillar room because they end up treating Hana's face like their personal plaything. All the while, Ruru managed to excel at playing with the kids, explained that she had read Saya's textbook.
栄養学のページ、すごく面白くなかった？分析としてはやや浅く感じましたが。そうかしら。Them's fighting words.
Them's fighting words.
Yeah, sure enough, when you put two intellectuals in the room, there's going to be a little competition. In this case, Saya and Ruru compete to see who would be the better caregiver, and okay, Saya, that look on your face isn't exactly child-friendly. Okay, girl, you're officially scarier than any monster, not just in this series, but probably the whole franchise. Their little competition continues throughout the day. It includes stuff like them making faces that I unfortunately can't add to my folder because they don't show them, damn it. But still, we do get some fun stuff like, okay, I can't be the only one who really wants a gif of Ruru playing with that kid here, right? In fact, it looks like so much fun that Harry wants in. Wait, didn't she effortlessly flip over a bed earlier in the episode? For whatever reason, the Precure disregard this little display of superhuman strength and proceed with taking care of the youngins. At one point, they all start crying at once for no particular reason, like toddlers tend to do. Luckily, the actual caretakers came in and calmed them down with lullabies. Lullabies that I'm pretty sure weren't in Saya's textbook, much to Ruru's confusion. Yeah, even though Ruru managed to insta-scan most of the fundamentals from Saya's book, she's unable to fully understand what it means to take care of a smaller life, because no amount of research will ever truly be able to define the importance of a young life. As her possibly lashing out at her inability to compute any of this, looks like it's time for Ruru to punch in at her job at Kuryasu, this time targeting the caregivers, plus a fashion designer who could be seen throughout the episode in front of the school, who was complaining about the toddlers crying as it was ruining her concentration. Yeah, Ruru, I know it's part of your job and everything, but I really think you should raise your standards when it comes to your victims of the week. I mean, seriously, lady, if you need someplace quiet to work, maybe you could, I don't know, set up an office in the city, soundproof a room at your place, or even move away. You have a lot of options aside from pacing outside the preschool like someone who should be reported to the proper authorities. Also, I swear I didn't remove anything from in between the scenes. Ruru can just change her clothes instantaneously. I mean, it's not as though the animators were too lazy to make a new summoning animation of her in her casual clothes, no. Anyway, while the Oshimaida was of the average variety, the fight was made a lot more difficult because the Precure also had to ensure the safety and well-being of the kids. It's not the worst reason I've ever seen to have a superhero sidelined.
This looks like a job for Bipolar Bear. But I just can't seem to get out of bed this month.
At first, Ruru's not above taking advantage of the situation, but when her monster is about to attack one of the kids she personally cared for, she instinctively stepped in. As a result, the monster was stunned in its place, and Saya took notice. They defeated the Oshimaida, and the fashion designer got over herself and was inspired to make children's clothes. Jeez, times have been tough for Corella ever since she moved to Japan. Thus, the episode ends with Ruru confused about what she had done, and likewise, Purple leaving in a huff after seeing what her subordinate had done. While this certainly was a filler episode, I will admit it was good filler, as it gave a decent amount of character development to not one, but two characters at once. Saya was definitely the most entertaining part of this episode. Whether she was competing with Ruru or making slasher smiles at her teammates, it was all hilarious to watch. Most of all though, she got some much needed character development. I mean, when you really get down to it, Saya's probably had the least amount of development among the three heroines. Even in her previous focused episode, it was less about her as a person and more about her past and the people around her. Here though, we saw an interesting new side to Saya, her competitive side. Of course, somebody who studies as hard as she does is going to have a little bit of pride in her work and is going to try and defend it when needed. Though Saya doesn't actually like this side of herself, finding it embarrassing and likely preferring to be the quiet observer. But, as Homari put it, it's better to just be yourself sometimes. The other star of this episode was of course the focus of this current arc. I don't think I'm really spoiling anything when I say Ruru's going to pull a full face turn soon enough, and her interacting with young and innocent lives are a good way of building towards that. Most of all, I just appreciate how they're letting Ruru interact with characters other than the Pink here. While Setsuna only really needed to interact with Love to pull a proper turn, Ruru doesn't have as much defined character as her, so having her interact with characters with significantly different personalities helped to flesh out her own. She'll likely interact with Homari in a couple weeks, as next week looks to be an episode with Emu, where they seem to have saved up the animation budget for. Yeah, my only major complaint with this week's episode, aside from the infuriating victim of the week, was the subpar animation. It wasn't terrible, as they did get some pretty good facial expressions, but yeah, nice dropkick there, Saya. Still, I can't complain too much when the seeds for some much more interesting developments have been planted. My review for the second volume of the Kya Precure manga is almost done, and I should have it done either later this week or early next week. I'm not making any promises. Either way, look forward to it, and until then though, farewell for now my friends, and I see you two! Hey, I already told you we have to put away the Koi no Boy until next year!